Good evening, everybody, or good afternoon. Welcome back for another one of our Civics and Citizenship professional learning sessions, which has been a joint effort between the Parliament of South Australia, the Department for Education, and the Commissioner for Children and Young People. I am on Kaurna land today. I'm actually in my house today, although you can't tell. And my house is on Kaurna land, and I acknowledge the Kaurna people as the traditional owners of the land that I'm on here in the Adelaide Plains. And it would be lovely, as we've done in previous weeks, for you to drop into the chat the country that you're joining us from today, so that way we can acknowledge country across the state and do that together. We have a really lovely session this afternoon. It's always nice to hear from colleagues and peers, and I'll be handing over shortly to Aaron Harrison from the Department for Education, who will be talking about the Governor's Civics Awards for schools. And then you'll be hearing from a selection of teachers who have had some successes with the Governor's Civics Awards for schools. And you can pick their brains and learn about some of the amazing civics programs and opportunities they have in their sites. So Aaron, I'll hand it over to you, and I will step backwards this evening, and thank you very much for kicking us off today, Aaron.
Thanks, Natalie. Thanks for that great introduction, and good afternoon, evening to everybody out there. So yeah, my name's Aaron Harrison, and I'm Manager of Humanities Projects at the Department for Education. So part of my responsibility is to look after a number of initiatives, projects, programs that go across all sectors and available for all sectors, from basically years 5 to year 12. So things like the Premier's Anzac Spirit School Prize, which many of you I know are already involved with. Year 10, we got the Eden School Prize, the National Schools Constitution Convention, and the Mural Matters Awards for year 7 to 12. Across sectors as well. So we're going to dive a bit deeper into some of those initiatives next week for our workshop next week. But today our focus is on the Governor's Civics Awards for schools. And we are fortunate to have organised 3 fantastic teachers who've been successful in the past with these awards, with their schools and their students, to share some of their stories and what has been successful, and to share some tips and tricks, and see the real world, and actually what happens from behind the scenes to prepare students for these awards. So I'm really looking forward to introducing our 3 guests today, which I'll introduce in a moment who they are. First, I'd like to just do a little quick poll. So you might have done one of these before. I've got 2 questions just to see who our audience is today. And if you wouldn't mind having a go at these 2 questions, that'll be terrific. It should only take you 30 seconds or so. Very simple questions. So the first one is, have you heard of the Governor's Civics Awards for schools before? And number 2, if you answered yes to question 1, have your schools or students from your school submitted entries to the Governor's Civics Awards in the past? Great, looks like entries are coming in. Whoop, 68% have voted. Terrific. 79. It's like commentating a race here. Almost there. Okay, we just got a couple left, maybe having issues. I'll just give you a few more moments. So looking at our audience, before 2023, have you heard of the Governor's Civics Awards? We're looking at 35% yes and 65% no, so that's great. We got lots of people who will learn a lot today. And for those who've answered yes, we've got 0% that have entered before, and we've got 56% not available. Obviously, didn't know to the first answer. So that's really, really useful information. So thank you, everybody. And I guess that's going to be handy for our teachers when we hand it over to them in a moment to know who they're talking to as well. So thank you very much, everyone. Just a bit of background on the awards. It's been going not for a huge amount of time. It's been going since 2019. So pre that wonderful time we all call COVID. So it's pretty well only been going since COVID has hit the world. It's an award that the previous Governor, Hugh Van Lay, established in partnership with the Department for Education, and it's built on from there. And if you did attend our first online workshop, Her Excellency Frances Adamson is a huge advocate for the awards and getting out and amongst schools in South Australia. So she's a huge supporter and is really keen to see this grow and give this opportunity for all South Australians, regardless of its whether it's government schools, independent, Catholic, country or regional schools as well. There are different categories for the awards, which I know our guests all cover different categories today. So there are individual awards for individual students. There are group awards for groups, and there are also school awards. And the idea is awards that are developing the capacity and awareness of students in the area of active and informed citizenship. Closing date this year for entries is 15th of September, so I might talk about that a little bit later. And up for grabs are medallions, cash prizes, and attendance at a ceremony with the Governor herself, Her Excellency herself. 2 ceremonies were held for the awardees last year, one at the Old Gumtree on the 28th of December for Proclamation Day, and also one at Government House earlier this year. So they're wonderful opportunities. There are some cash prizes up for grabs for schools, and the SACE awardees actually get to spend an hour with Her Excellency in the library at Government House with a roundtable discussion, which is, I sat there for the first time this year, and it was a pretty amazing opportunity for those successful students that attended. I'm just going to share my screen now, and if you do have any questions at the chat, we got Natalie will be monitoring that and letting me know. So if you just bear with me while I share the screen, and I'm hoping this all. And what I'll do, this is the landing page for the Governor's Civics Awards for Schools. So I will pop this in the chat a little bit later, but just to orientate everybody, there is a little bit about the awards. I'm going to play this video in a moment that was done at last year's awards ceremony. How it links with the Australian curriculum, information about this year's awards. There are support materials there, including the posters and information specifically for the primary and secondary awards. Some information about when and how to submit entries, the entry forms themselves as well. And at the bottom of the page is the winners from last year's Civics Award, which possibly some of you may recognise these students. So we do recognise them each year on our webpage as well. Just getting back up to the top, I'm just going to play this video. This was done professionally last year at the awards ceremony. Her Excellency Frances had COVID at the time, so you'll see she is on a screen, but a very supportive presence anyway, and hopefully the audio is going to work as well with this one.
Everyone's got something to contribute, whatever their background, whatever's happened in their lives, wherever they come from. And I think we really need to be actively encouraging everyone to have a voice.
Maths is one of my favourite lessons at school, and I've always enjoyed learning about history.
We had to talk about an environmental or social trouble that we were currently having.
I wanted to respond to a question from inside and respond with an authentic answer.
I did mine based on disabilities, and I know a lot of people with disabilities, and they've read my awards and they've felt like a lift up reading it, and so I'm proud of that.
I decided to go with the gender pay gap and its impacts.
I'm very excited that I'm here today because I've never been to the government house before and I got to meet the governor.
It feels really good because this motivates me to, in the future, be an active citizen, help out with my community.
I had to like come in and do a roundtable discussion. That was a cool experience.
Governor's Civics Awards for Schools are open to all students across the state from Year 5 to Year 12. They can enter as individuals, they can enter as a group. And it's about providing recognition for great work that we know is happening in civics across the state. And I love nothing more as Governor than giving recognition and acknowledgement for fantastic work done.
I'd say to just go for it. Like, even if you don't win as such, it's still a great opportunity to learn more about South Australian society.
It's a great opportunity to have some fun, and this essay was really enjoyable to write it.
Enter, like it's the best, and it helps you in the future as well.
So it's really powerful. I can talk all I want up here, but it's really powerful hearing from students themselves about the impact these awards have had on them, and the diverse range of topics that they cover through these awards. What's also really, really powerful is hearing from teachers, and I'd like to introduce three wonderful educators out there from three different schools and settings. So we have Claire from Cornerstone College, so Claire Dory, who's waving at the moment. We got Jonah Haynes from Bridgewater Primary School, and also we got Rebecca Leary from Horizon Christian School as well. So I may handball over to you guys now. Each of our teachers will present for about 10 minutes. And if you do have any questions for them, again, put that in the chat, and I'm sure there will be questions coming up operationally, how these guys went about things, and those tips and tricks we talked about earlier. And we'll convey those questions to Beck, Jonah and Claire. So I'm going to ask you to go first, Beck, because I know we're testing your audio, so I'm sure that'll be successful. So thanks for joining us. Over to you.
All right. Hi. I am from Horizon Christian School in Balaclava. So I just wanted to share a little bit about our context, because I feel like that's a really important part of our journey and my journey. We are a school in Balaclava, which is a regional area. We have less than 2,000 people in our town. And so every morning we have buses that go out and they pick up kids from up to an hour away and bring them in. We are a Christian school, so we're not an area school, but we are foundation to Year 12 with about 400 students. All of that to say that we don't have in this school a massive school population. The students who I have had enter this competition are not the elite students by any means, because they're just getting involved in schooling, and I find that amazing. All of that to say, in 2020, I got the first opportunity to teach civics at Year 9 level to a group of students as an elective subject. We make our Year 9s choose subjects. They have to do history, but we get them to choose between civics, economics, and geography. And I've been pushing for a civics class. I think it's important that we empower our young people. And so it was really awesome to get the opportunity to step up and to teach a civics class for the first time. In teaching civics for the first time in 2020, I was looking for resources. I was looking for supports and strategies in how to teach this new subject that I'm now teaching. And I stumbled across the Governor Civics Awards, and I was very excited. It was fantastic. In 2019, it was run for Year 5 only. And so in 2020, being run for Year 5 to 12 meant that I could run this with my class and I could get them involved with it. And so in term 2, I gave them an assignment, and it was essentially the Governor Civics Award question, which I thought was a good way of getting them in and doing it. I never forced any of the students to enter, but I did give them the competition as their assignment. And I thought that worked really, really well in terms of getting them to engage with it. So that year I had a class of about 9 students, and 3 of them entered. I'm going to play a clip from one of them. He made a video. It was awesome. And the question that year was asked at Year 9 was asking about how young people can be involved in our multicultural democratic society. So multifaceted in that, multicultural and democratic. And I thought he did a brilliant job in covering both. So I'm just going to play you a quick clip from his video that he put together for that. Here. I hope the audio is working.
Australia, put simply, is a critical place where government is stable. We have a good education, we have a thriving ecosystem, and islands are simply just cool. Such an incredible country is worth sharing with others. It shouldn't be surprising that 200,000 people migrated to Australia last year, and that means that over 1 in 4 Australian citizens were born overseas. This isn't including last year's 9.5 million international short-term visitor arrivals. So many different cultures coming into Australia, an incredibly diverse multicultural society is thriving. This society ranges from the 10th generation of families whose ancestors came to colonise in New Holland, to immigrants fleeing to a better life, to students trying to get a great education. However, all these societies with different views on religion, lifestyle, and customs sometimes find it hard to peacefully coexist. When respect for another society is ignored, conflicts arise and racism starts. It is becoming more and more difficult for young people to have a conversation without knowingly or not insulting another culture.
So I just thought in that video, he's just done this amazing job of capturing both multicultural and democratic, and giving him the opportunity to create it multimodal was brilliant, because he is so good with the technology and he really engaged with the technology. So finding a pathway for students that just love using the technology, brilliant, do it. I think it's awesome. So he did really well. He was one of my 3 entries that year. I had 1 winner. That was the one that I just played. And so really, really exciting to see him take that on board. The next year, 2021, I had 1 student decide to go beyond the here's an assignment stage, and she won, which was amazing as well. So she was writing all about how just giving examples of how young people can be involved in our society, and giving different examples of different people who had stepped up and how she herself could. She hadn't actually taken any action at that point, but she herself could step up and take action, which I thought was really cool. And then in 2022, having had success with the previous 2 years, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to open it to everyone. I'm not just going to make this the class assignment, but I'm going to open it to the whole school. And that was terrifying. That was a lot of work, and that was insane. I had 2 students in year 5, 2 students in year 6, a student in year 7, a student in year 8, 2 students in year 9, a group at year 9, and then we entered the primary category and the secondary category. We entered a lot. And I was just impressed and amazed at how the students stepped up, because I don't teach civics specifically to all of those year levels. And so particularly with the 5s and 6s, because I don't work in a primary school and I don't teach in primary classes, I'm a high school teacher teaching in a high school area where there are primary students. And so to have oversight over that was really interesting. And so I gave the teachers the support and the resources to do it. And they used it as an early finisher activity. And so those students who are able to push themselves and did want to extend themselves were able to do it as an early finisher activity. And then I jumped in and spent 20 minutes with them here and 10 minutes with them there, and got them to a stage where we could enter them. And so at the end of that, my year 5's got participations, my year 6's got merits, my year 7 won, my year 8 won, one of my year 9's won, our group entry 1, and our school and both primary and secondary schools got merits. And so just a massive effort, but it was worth it to see these kids just really excel in what they were doing. I'm just going to show you a couple more pictures. This is going to work. So these are some of the photos of our group award. I let the students take leadership and take ownership on their project. And so this is my Year 9 class. They are making smiley face biscuits to sell outside the school canteen to raise money to buy supplies to donate to the homeless, which is a very convoluted process, but they loved it. They thought it was just amazing to be involved in everything from yes, I can bring in a packet of M&Ms. That's what I can do. I can contribute that, to making the money, to going and buying the supplies and being part of the giving it to the homeless. Like they excelled at the journey, and it was entirely student led. And I think that's one of the key factors in making this whole process work and making this whole competition work, is that it has to be student led. You can't force the kids to do it. So while I make them do an assignment, their entry is their option. While I encourage them to participate, their entry is their option. And so at Year 9 this year, they have the choice. They can join a group, they can do a group project, or they can write an individual entry, but there is no obligation beyond this is the class assignment to actually enter. And so my hints and tips, the big things from me, phrase things in a way that the students are going to get it. So instead of asking, and I don't know how Aaron feels about this, but with my Year 7, so instead of asking why is an understanding of diversity important in Australian society, I just ask them, tell me why Australian society is important, or diversity is important, tell me. And give them prompts that they're going to understand in a way that they're going to get, rather than asking them why isn't understanding, because sometimes the students don't understand in that way. And so rephrasing it in a way that they get makes all the difference. Making an extension to what you're already doing is my second hint. You're teaching, you're doing an amazing job teaching because you're here and you care. So add it to what you're doing. Don't try and shoehorn it in. Don't try and force the kids to do it, but add it as an extension to what you're already doing, because you're doing great things. And finally, empower the students to take ownership. If the kids care about it, if they want to see homelessness defeated, if they want to write about stop putting houses on farmland, if they want to write about whatever the topic is, they're going to be passionate about it. And that's how you empower them to be involved in the project. I hope that was useful. I don't have much more to say, but I hope that was useful, and happy to answer questions.
Sorry, just unmuting myself.
Yeah.
Got a comment from Emma. Great to see the very different approaches.
Yeah.
Sorry, that
Rebecca,
was...
can I ask you? Can I ask you about you started the scary part of opening it up to everybody, and I think that was a bold, good thing. Have those other teachers come on board now? Are they working with you and sort of taking some of that independence?
Yeah, our Year 6 teacher's really stepped up, and she's really excited to run it with her class. With change of staff, because change of staff means I'm still working with the Year 5s, but with the 7s, 8s, 9s, that was already mine. And it's a daunting amount of work to kind of consider that, yes, you have to like support each one of these students in their individual projects, but it's worth it. When you have those moments that just kind of go, you know, yes, you've got this, and yes, you're making a difference, and yes, I can see your passion, like it's worth it. It's just a lot of daunting work at times. But yeah, having the Year 6 teacher definitely step up has made that one a lot less daunting to go, right, I know that you can do this.
So I've got a question.
Yes.
In 1 or 2 points, what do you think is crucial to success? I know you've covered probably a bit of that already. Is it principal support? Is it whole school approach? Is it, yeah?
For me, it's the students. If the students care, then the students are going to care. And if the students can take ownership of what they're learning, if the students can take a path and a topic within this giant scope that it is, that's where you're going to get your most success. So yeah, giving them the opportunity rather than forcing them to do it, I think is probably the best way of doing it.
Yeah, and you found this is an engaging, a really good way to engage students in civics.
Yeah, my students have to respond to me because that's their assignment, but once I've given them their feedback on the assignment, they're like, yeah, cool, like let's enter this, let's go with it. And so giving them the space, giving them the opportunities, presenting it to them in a way that they can get. And then it's also a bit of a legacy because I've had a couple of students from the same family enter, and, you know, well, if my sister did it, then I have to as well. And so that legacy does kind of help and make it easier to convince students to do it.
Yeah, word spreads. Yeah,
definitely.
All right, terrific. We've had a couple more comments there. Thank you, Beck. That was really helpful from Elaine and also from Emily. It was really great to see the options for students. Thanks very much. So great contribution there, Rebecca. Thanks so much. And if anyone thinks of some more questions as we go along, perhaps we'll have a little bit of time at the end to answer them. So great stuff, Beck. Thank you very much. We will now move to Jonah, who I know's got something different in mind for us all. So over to you, Jonah, from Bridgewater Primary School.
Thank you, and thank you, Rebecca. That was great. I've been taking down notes, so that's wonderful, which I love about this opportunity to do the good networking. So thank you for that. I am in Bridgewater Primary School, and behind me you can see our student parliament, which is set up and ready to go for tomorrow. And I am I won the school award last year. Here's my bling, which was wonderful, and these sit proudly in my office, and they have been really good for starting conversations and getting people interested. So just getting those trophies was, is a good reason to enter. But the winning the school award was a culmination of 10 years of slow and steady work with our student parliament. And I'm now the deputy, but was the year 7 teacher for many, many years. And we started with just the role play using the script that you can get. Natalie would have that for you on the sites. You can find those. And we set the classroom up and we did the role play. And it was like sitting dryly reading the thing, but was dipping our toe in, and we got there. And then we grew to use our class meetings, just like Parliament. We would run those, and we kept the we kept this set up. And we've each year what we like to add to something. So at one point it was to get a real mace that you can see at the back there, and we've got the speakers' robes and the dispatch boxes, and I've got my black rod because I'm the Senate representative. They don't listen to me unless I'm sat with the black rod now. But the two aims that we've had from the very start was that the kids would learn about the Westminster system. They would learn how it all works, what's going on when they see the clips of the Prime Minister and the Leader of the Opposition shouting at each other on TV, and everything that gets them elected to it. And the other thing was to give the students a real lived experience on real opportunities to have their voices heard. So it's worked really well. We run it with, we've got a head of state, which is our principal, and our principal was new this year. So we had a coronation and all of that ceremony. And we beat the English to it, which was good. Did it before Charlie got the crown, so that was fun. But just having that debate too, the kids were thinking, does our old, who was Queen, who moved to another school, does she stay Queen and then we have a Governor General? And that was a really good, interesting debate, because that's the experience we have in Australia with King Charles on the throne and the Governor General. So they, through the experiences they've had, they get that good thing. But we've got the first order of business was the King issues the writs for an election. We have studios, we call our classes studios. They are our seats, and they elect 2 representatives to come and sit in Parliament. We have a Prime Minister election, which is from the senior class, and they will need to campaign and give election promises, and they get we do full preferential voting for those roles, and they're held accountable to those speeches. The King gives the speech at the opening of Parliament, and that was one of the big things we did this year, was to tie in with the pomp and ceremony the kids were going to see in London. We went the whole hog, and we had the King sign the proclamation to form government. We had the members of Parliament summoned to the staff room. We had the yeomen of the guard come and do the ceremonial search of the cellars. So we've tried to get in the good history from Westminster, because that's where we've come from, and the kids love it. And I know when Natalie does the tours and talks about the bloodline and all the little intricacies in the Parliament and the state Parliament, the kids love it, and they get so involved about asking, is this the right length between the dispatch boxes to stop the sword fights and things like that. So it's a way to engage those kids, especially the younger ones, because we've got receptions all through to year 6 sat here, and it's a way to get those young kids engaged if that's the start, because, you know, the older kids are more assertive and vocal in the Parliament, which is to be expected. But as Rebecca was saying, you get that legacy building. So we've got our Prime Minister now sat in the Parliament when he was a reception. So they've been waiting for this, and they're ready to go. So that's where we start. But, you know, we have Black Rod come and knock on the door, and they slam the door and go and listen to the King deliver the speech. And they're always surprised that the speech was written by the Prime Minister, and it's all their promises. So it really sets that up well. But then after we've elected the Speaker and they're dragged to the chair, it's really, that's the kids' time. Then we'll step away. And I've really, I'm not even coming in the room at the moment. I'll have a cabinet meeting, and we'll draw up an agenda with the Prime Minister that looks something like that, and then I'll hand that over, and that's sat with the Speaker, and then they're away. That's up to them, and they'll have their studios meetings, class meetings, report, and so they've got that full independence. They've got a budget that we give them, about $500 a year. They can also lobby the King for money if they need to, or do fundraising themselves, and they can spend that on what they like. And it started off as really I guess like the kids will say, when I'm Prime Minister, I will go get a swimming pool and things like that at the very start. And it's a bit like if you've seen a little election book by Danny Katz, that's got Rory saying he wants a swimming pool and all sorts of silly things. But the kids, we've got the Senate a few years ago, which is our staff meeting. So they have to pass it through the staff meeting, just like the House of Reps needs to pass through the Senate. So they get that understanding. So they're really good now of negotiating themselves about what's going to pass, what can we actually get through Parliament. And the big promise this year was air fresheners in the toilets, because they stink. And whilst that seemed like not such a big deal for a lot of people, thinking you're spending a lot of time in this big meeting about stinky toilets, it's really important to those kids. And it's really, once the kids get a chance to say their experience, there's kids telling their class meetings they don't go to the toilet at school because they stink. So they're addressing real problems for them, and they're finding the solutions themselves. So they've done research about what they can do about it. The Prime Minister just met the King to get the money for a trial. They presented the budget of what it would cost, and negotiating who pays for it. The student parliament will pay for some, but not the whole lot. So you get this real dialogue and that real compromise, and they have got to pass it through the Senate and then get royal assent if they want to happen. And it's been things like that, getting leggings, black leggings, as part of the uniform bill was a big thing that swung all these votes for the Prime Minister to get elected, but the girls' votes across the school was like, we're voting for that Prime Minister. So they get to learn about that campaigning and their target audience, and it's stuff that they care about. And we've got kids come to school in their Bridgewater Raiders footy club and netball jumpers because that's part of the uniform now. So we've done all of that good stuff, and it works really well. And you know, our next step is probably getting the kids involved on the governing council, which I think would be excellent for that authentic voice and that real power, because we really want to empower those kids. It's not tokenistic; they're really part of that. And then I'm hoping we'll, you know, get to a point we declare the Independent Children's Republic of Bridgewater, and we're away. So it's been a good journey, and the kids are really informed about the world. They go off and teach their parents about what's happening at the referendum and how preferential voting works. It's, you know, it's fantastic like that. But the belonging and the connection that they get has been fantastic. And we're building this real democratic culture, and we're seeing more and more the social justice mindset and modelling that positive leadership. And the kids quite often see Parliament on TV and go, why? They're not getting anything done, where we can sit here and sort it out. And we don't have an opposition party, which is one helpful thing, but they're getting the idea about that. And one great thing about the Governor's Civics Award was going to see and have that connection with Frances Adamson and realising she's just a person. And we had our local member, Josh Teague, take us around state parliament, and the kids realise he's just a person that they can talk to, and there isn't this separation of power. They feel part of it. They can approach them. And those two people in power have been wonderful because they've listened to the kids and they've responded. And I think Josh Teague even mentioned something one of our kids had said in a press conference or in Parliament even, and the kid heard it and thought, that's my idea. And that's what we're really after. And I'm looking at the time. Oh dear, I knew this would happen, Aaron. So, but I think that the reasons to do it are, it's opened up this network that we're all part of now because we sat here, which is fantastic. And that building that culture between us, I think, is really important. And just going to the Civics Award was great because there's all these like-minded people, and civics is pretty, you know, it can be a pretty particular thing. It's a certain type of person who gets excited about it, but you know, those people are out there. We found it really very straightforward to put it in there. We didn't do bells and whistles. I think I put in 3 or 4 photos and just the description, similar to probably what you've just heard. And we really felt judged on the merits of what we were doing and not on how great you can do a PowerPoint or things like that. And
I was just going to ask you about the ease of process for the schools award, because it's designed not to be onerous on a school, and a barrier for a school to get involved. So I'm glad you touched on that.
Yeah, and it certainly wasn't. And I didn't realise how straightforward that was, because the poster would come and the pack would come on my desk, and the front office people would say, that's got the word civics, this is for you. And I would look at it and go, oh, I don't know if part of it is how big a job is it going to be, and also, are we really doing things that are worthy of winning? And so just throwing your hat in there to get that recognition gave a lot of confidence what we're doing. But it has been fantastic, as I said before, to that prestige of it has been great. The kids are excited about it. I went around and talked about getting the award, and parents know about it from so they can ask their kids about, oh, are you involved in Parliament? They find all this stuff out that their kids have been involved with, that they had an idea in a class meeting and it went to Parliament, and you know, it opens those doors, which is great, and it helps build that culture as well, which was great. And I've just checked my notes. Well, I think there's Yeah, it's. I think I've covered all the things. I wrote all these notes and now I've just rambled on. But I would definitely go ahead and do it, because just telling your school about what you're doing and getting the word out there is really worth doing. And like I for a long time, I have the next thing in mind that I want to do. So I kind of thought, I'm not quite finished. I haven't got this finished product to go and put forward for the award, but I thought once I'd done it, it didn't matter. And I think, that was great to know the judges recognize that and think you're doing great things. And of course you're going forward, but and I think that came through with Rebecca's as well, that that's what we do as teachers. And it's nice to stop and go, yeah, we're doing a good thing here. And that was nice to get that recognition.
That's a really good point. And most people's jobs are the same, that you don't stop and I guess celebrate what you're already doing and reflect on what you're already doing. And this is a chance to share with that wider community, with other schools and teachers, and get recognised for a small application. So, and we're getting some really good messages in. Emma, very inspiring. Natalie has been sharing the federal role play scripts and the no homework bill, which I would like to have a look at myself. Mandatory vegetable, I can't say, bill.
Make it compulsory to have vegetables at every meal of the day. So, Joni, you mentioned that you started by doing the bare bones role play. So I just linked to some of them in the chat.
Yeah, and they're a great way to go, because a lot of teachers have said that they don't really 100% feel like they know what happens in Parliament. Like, that is just an Australian thing, isn't it? And I think that Aaron and Natalie were talking about the referendum sessions, that we're a country that doesn't engage for whatever reason. And I think that's the power that we've got, is to get those kids active and engaged in their citizenship, learning, being active citizens, and demystify it as well, and for their parents as well. And I think that's a really powerful thing that we can do. And, the award helps do that. I think that it elevates it. Getting a trophy does elevate it to a certain different plane where maybe sport and other things in our schools and our culture get that recognition. But I think civics should get it. We should be having that. And I think it's important stuff. So that's a really good reason to do it as well.
Yeah, wonderful, lovely. Thank you so much, Jonah. That's amazing and inspiring. And others, fantastic ideas. I love the idea. This is from Emily, of relating the Westminster system to the school environment. Can see applications at secondary school as well. So, and there are categories for, like I said, primary and secondary for this. So, and thank you for sharing.
There's so many great stories of, from Magna Carta onwards, and there's so many great things online, little cartoons that people have put together that explain it so well. You can, and the kids love it. They get engaged in that. So it's a good way to go. I'll stop talking.
Sounds like yeah, that's okay. And you've been doing it for a long time. So it sounds like it's ingrained in school culture now, which is really good to see. So thank you. And I'm going to now hand over to Claire Dorey from Cornerstone in the lovely Adelaide Hills as well. So looks like all our schools are from that eastern region. So all from beautiful areas. And I'd like to hand over to Claire now, who is also successful recently with the Governor's Awards.
Okay. And can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. We had some tech issues earlier. I was a little stressed. Okay. My story is quite different. So mine is to really encourage everybody that you can do it. So my theme is to keep your eyes open and to just start small and to see what's happening around you. So a bit of context, my school is a lovely school of about 800 students up in Mount Barker. It's a Lutheran co-ed school, an interesting mix of kids. We've got some great kids. We've got some rat bags like all of you do. But intro to me, my context, I was new last year. So I kind of fell into the awards, not by accident, but I kind of just took advantage of it because I've been teaching for 20 years, but I was new to the school. So I felt like I was starting over again. Different state, different Catholic to Lutheran. I was in a single-sex school. Now I'm teaching boys. Everything was new. And I was teaching subjects that I wasn't used to teaching. So I felt like a brand new teacher. And so I didn't feel like I was doing a good job. I wasn't as organised as these other two teachers were at all. and I was given this extracurricular activity to do with history club, and I didn't teach the juniors, so no one turned up. And so I kind of I gave up and went, I've got to find something to look like I'm doing my extracurricular hours, because otherwise it'll look like I'm being slack and not doing my work. And so I went to one of the HTASA days, and it talked about the Government Citizenship Award, which obviously I'd never heard of because I'm new to South Australia. And so it was just a really good chance of, oh, okay, I can make this work. I can look like I'm doing my job. And one of my other extracurricular activities was to be part of our First Nations group. It's really strong at our school. We've got a number of Indigenous students, but we've also got some really passionate staff. So just by being part of that, I was seeing what was happening in our school, and seeing, the things that they were doing that I'm like, oh, okay. And, that would fit with what, the awards are. So it was really just keeping my eyes and ears open to what was happening around the school. So our group's task was, I'm trying to link it to that song, Paul Comodian and Kev Comodian and Paul Kelly, From Little Things, Big Things Grow. What our group, we won the group award, and it started with a Year 9 student doing an inquiry project on showing more respect to the paramount culture. That's the land we're on. So he wrote this great idea of the things he could do. One of his best mates is Indigenous, and he just wanted to include him and everything in what the school and the community were doing. It ended up, the group ended up being about 20 students, and his idea was to create, if you know Mount Barker, it's rapidly expanding, and they've got a new Summit Sports Centre that they just built that was very bland. And he was like, he plays footy. He's going, why can't we put our artwork up on the wall as a footy, the change rooms, outside the change rooms? And so it's something as simple as, the wall is blank, we could do this. And then it was his, this Year 9 boy coming up with ideas of getting local Indigenous artists, getting the councillors on board, getting the people from the footy club on board. I think it helped that his dad was part of the footy club. But it was just a simple little idea that really snowballed. So they got an Indigenous artist in, they had art classes of what could be put up on our mural, and they used some of the symbolism from the school, all of our houses. And it was great to see the councillors, the local MPs, artists, the footy club, our school, all working together to create this beautiful mural. But then they went beyond that. They created this mural, then they want to organise a walk for reconciliation to open the mural. So the whole community is now involved. It was a rainy day. We still had hundreds of people turn up. We had some of the boys stand up in front of these hundreds of people presenting their ideas. One of the Year 12 boys had done his research project on something similar, so he got a merit for an individual award. There's several of them gave speeches both at the walk for reconciliation, but also at school chapels and school assemblies. And it really was just the idea of letting the kids lead and seeing, for me as a new teacher, watching them do it all. I hardly had to do anything. I basically went, oh, you're doing stuff. I'm going to write it all down and see if we can win an award. And so I wasn't proactive last year. I was really reacting to what was already happening around the school. This year, I'm being more proactive. I'm actually going to the research project teachers and saying, what are you doing? I'm keeping my eye out even more. But it really is for you guys to see that it's probably already happening. We have so many amazing students who have so many amazing ideas. We just have to give them a voice. We have to, be aware of what's going on. So some of my main tips that, overlap with what Joan and Beck have already said about letting the students lead. I think too often we take away their voice and say, no, do this, do this, do this. But they're amazing. Let them have their voice. Let them have their ideas and see them come to fruition. Now, they needed a bit of support, but a lot of the students did most of the work themselves. They really rose to the occasion. So a few tips for teachers who are like, well, can I do it? Can't I do it? It's just get involved, see what's going on, read your school's Facebook page. And I use a lot of the school Facebook page in our entry, which I'll show you in a minute. Listen to staff devotions or staff meetings or whatever you call them. Just listen to what teachers say, because sometimes a teacher will make an announcement. It's like, oh, I didn't know you were doing that. Especially when you're in faculties like my school, my old school, we were all in one staff room, so we heard everything. In my new school, we're all over the place. I don't get to mingle with other departments that much. So just get to know people in other learning areas. Just find out what they're doing that could relate, because it's not just the humanities, it's a lot of what's happening in other departments as well. The research project teachers are a really great resource. The library staff seem to know everything. Go to the library staff. Chat to the students on duty. Sometimes just say, I don't know you. Who are you? What are you doing in class? What are you doing in extracurricular? And then once you're confident, now that I've entered, and I was very surprised about one because I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. Start being more proactive and say, right, we've won one. What can we do next? We can try this. So I was just going to quickly share my screen and just show you our entry. screen. So it's been a while. Do I know what I'm doing? Am I actually showing my screen? Share. There we go. Okay, I'll move past it. So that's that's as simple as the form is. They want all the process. They want you to answer all the questions. But then it really was just looking back at our local, at our Facebook pages to see what the kids have been doing. Here's some photos of the beautiful mural and the artists we worked with. That's some of them. Look at them, they're gorgeous. So that's the location. It's a big ground, it goes around. But when we had the opening, the kids got to show all the staff. That's some of the other things we do at school. That's some of the guys actually doing the speech at the walk. Some of the mess the artists were making. And so it was a really great, there were a lot of non-Indigenous people in the group, but there obviously were a few Indigenous as well. So I loved seeing them come together, and they didn't, there should be more pictures. I included the speeches from chapel. We included parts of their projects. So, a bunch of different kids all got up and spoke. They even made a local paper. So it's just, there's so much bravery amongst those kids, just showing off what they were proud of. They did a lot of the designs with Dave for the artwork. There was a picture, there was one little panel that had the school, house symbols using the paramedic shield and things like that. So I just wanted to finish with one of the things from the kids themselves. I emailed the kids to say, hey, what did you get out of it? And so the guy who started the project, it was in Year 9 last year, he says, I found the experience to be fun and beneficial, not just getting the award, but making the artwork and learning from David about his culture. It was great to go to Government House with an amazing group of people, meet the governor and be taken on a tour around her amazing house. I'm so glad that we were selected to represent the group. Thank you so much for putting us forward for the award. And I think the hardest part for me with the award was actually just choosing the 5, because there were 20 kids involved, and telling a few of them, okay, we put your names forward, but all of you, this belongs to all of you. So we made sure when they came back after the presentation that we got them all up at assembly and showed the school, all 20 of them, and made sure that they knew that they were all part of that award. So we loved it. It was, for a new teacher, it was really great to be part of that and to have a bit of ownership of what happens at my school. So hopefully we'll have another go this year.
That's terrific, Claire. So, thanks so much for that. And I think, what stands out for me from you, Beck and Jonah, is the passion that you have, the support you got within the schools, but also seems like you're feeding off the enthusiasm and engagement of the students as well. And there's many things that schools are already doing that could possibly be nominated for these awards. And the other thing that stands out for me is, why not put an application in? Because you're probably, and I think it's human nature, you're not quite confident, not quite sure, but why not? You never know. And the recognition is fantastic as well. And the opportunity to, like we're talking about before, to be recognised amongst your peers as well. And that's why this workshop, I believe, has been so powerful, that it is peers talking to fellow educators and sharing these stories and tips and tricks for involvement. So thank you, Claire. Thank you, Jonah. Thank you, Beck. Are there any last questions or comments from anyone? If you'd like to put them in the chat. I have, sorry, I'm just opening the chat myself. I have, if you go through the history of the chat, for reference, put a link to the page where all the information is that I went earlier, and where that video, the YouTube video, was on the Governor's Civics Awards for Schools. Again, the date is 15th of September, so there is a little bit of time, but something that you probably need to get onto soonish if you are interested. But I am certainly always available for to call or contact. So I'll drop my direct email address down too. Jonah's just put a little comment, and this may be some incentive to get someone over the line. Government House do excellent little sausage rolls. Enter just for the chance to eat them. I'm not sure if I got to eat those sausage rolls in that. I think I was running around like a madman, but that could get some people over the line. So thank you for sharing that, Jonah. And just for the process as well, there is a fairly substantial panel that meets, which Natalie is a very big and experienced part of as well. that sits down with all the applications, and it's a very fair, transparent process as well. So there is a reference group that sits behind these awards, which again Natalie and Emma both sit on, and get together and look at all the applications in a fair and transparent process as well. So that
it
would
is
be
so fair, Aaron, that I conflicted myself out of judging Jonah's entry because I'm so biased about parliamentary work.
Well, there you go. That's how fair we are. Thank you for your honesty and everything there, Natalie.
Aaron, it's Steve. You're in here. Can I just make a quick observation, mate?
Yeah, of course, Steve.
We're about to introduce Politics, People and Power, the SAFE Stage 1 course, into our school, and just looking at the entry requirements, I think that will be a natural fit. Having had experience with the Premier's Anzac Prize and some other work with the Virtual War Memorial, building these sort of competitions into students' assessment so that they don't see it as an additional sort of, I hate to use the term learning burden, but you actually embed it as part of their assessment. I think that works really well at selling it. Plus, I'm going to encourage our politics teacher to include the civics award, because I think the profile of the award flows through to other students, and they think, oh, hang on, I wouldn't mind being a part of that, and it just gives it a bit of exposure in the school community. So I think we're very fortunate that we can pick up the politics stage 1 subject. We hope to grow it out to stage 2 by 2025, so that will be good. But I know, yeah, building it into the assessment and making it a formalised part, that motivates a lot of our students to participate in competitions, not just see it as an additional burden or extra work and that sort of thing. I just thought I'd throw that into the observation.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Thanks, Steve. And, we do have to be mindful that, students do have a lot on their plate, especially in the secondary years. So if you can create as what they're already doing, that will make a difference to the teachers, I guess, willingness to, and the students as well. And then I guess there's the case of schools, like I've mentioned before, that are already doing things for the community, that it's not extra work as well, that can be recognised through these awards too. So really good point, Steve. Thank you. Are there any other comments before we sign off? I will put my email address in the chat line now. So thanks very much. We have one more comment from Lindley. This has been wonderful hearing the experiences. So thank you for that feedback. If there's no more questions, we might have 3 early minutes. So thank you very much for everybody attending. Next week, we'll be talking more about some of the other opportunities I touched on earlier that Stephen and many people already know about the opportunities that the Department for Education provide across all sectors in humanities education. Awards like the Anzac Spirit Prize, Premier's Anzac Spirit Prize, the Eden School Prize from the Minister, the National Schools Constitutional Convention, and Mural Matters Awards. So hopefully we'll see many of you again next week. Thank you for joining us and have a lovely evening. And once again, thank you to our 3 teachers who've given up their time to prepare for this and share your stories. That's very much appreciated. So thank you, everyone.